Ladies and gents, welcome back. I hope you've read up on your near future dystopian sci-fi novels because we're in about chapter 4 as we stand here. Recent presser, Joe Biden released a statement saying that he's opening up a new Ministry of Truth to fight disinformation. Well, what does this mean? Well, if you've read 1984, which everyone's quoting by calling it the Ministry of Truth, is a government propaganda wing to control what people think. And well, I got a lot to go through, so we'll just get right to it. We have here from Fox News, critics slamming Biden's Ministry of Truth to police the internet for disinformation. The timing of it is interesting. Conservatives on social media slammed the Biden administration after it was announced that Disinformation Governance Board, is what it's actually called, is being established to combat disinformation from the 2022 midterms. Interesting timing. Not only that is the interesting timing of Elon Musk owning Homeland Security. Secretary guy I can't pronounce, Mayorkas, testified on Wednesday that Disinformation Guidance Board has recently been created days after Tesla CEO Elon Musk purchased Twitter to combat online disinformation that will be led by Undersecretary for Policy Rob Silvers and Principal Deputy General Counsel Jennifer Gaskill. Interesting names. The goal is to bring the resources of the Department of Homeland Security together to address the threat, Mayorkas said, adding that the department is focused on the spread of disinformation in minority communities. We're going to save those minorities because apparently minorities have different internet than the rest of us and have different browsing habits. They said it, I didn't. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley referred to the board as a disgrace and wrote a letter to Mayorkas demanding answers as to how the board will operate. Administration that activated the FBI against parents at school board meetings has now created a government disinformation board to monitor all American speech. It's a disgrace. Joe Biden and Secretary Mayorkas dissolve this monstrosity immediately. Is there anything more dystopian than a disinformation governance board run by the federal government? Florida Republican congressional candidate Dr. Willie J. Montague tweeted, adding in a later tweet that the board is Orwellian. Orwell, obviously being the writer of 1984, and Animal Farm, if you've read that as well. They didn't need a disinformation governance board until Elon Musk threatened their control over the narrative, Texas Republican Congressman Troy Nehls tweeted. I'll leave this in the description down below. You can read through the whole article. I need to move on. There's plenty to see here. This is what I put out on Twitter to all those right now celebrating the Ministry of Truth and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Ask yourself, how will you feel when someone like Trump has that power? This is the danger of giving government power. You have to make sure it's always your guy. And this is what people forget when their guy's in power and the guy tries to get more power, is that it's not always going to be your guy. You don't want to give the government this kind of power. This is the whole idea. The point of limited government is that no matter who is in charge, they don't have powers to wield over you. Tyranny of the majority is never good. And you won't always be in that majority. That's the idea here. More people taking to Twitter to take exception with this idea. The Ministry of Truth is here to fortify the elections. We're going to make them most fortified elections out there. Biden sets up disinformation board to combat midterm fake news, headed by Russia expert who called Hunter's laptop a Trump campaign product and said she shudders to think about Elon Musk taking over Twitter, shuddering to think about free speech and the free dissemination of information amongst the populace in a de facto town square. Interesting concept. Stephen Crowder jumped on Twitter to say the government is creating a misinformation governance board. Who else did something like that? Oh, I remember the bad guys from WW2. And there is some data showing that some interesting things about going on post Elon Musk's Twitter takeover, to which Elon Musk replied, discomforting. This is very discomforting, is it not? Walter Kern saying at Elon Musk has invited the world to abuse him verbally on his own property. That is the definition of generous and a gracious host. To which Elon Musk replied, freedom of speech means freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is just, like he said, he's an absolutist. Come in and criticize. That's the idea. So this isn't some like left-right divide. This is a matter of free speech. It's the First Amendment in the United States. It's the right that ensures all other rights. The idea of freedom of speech. And here's Tulsi Gabbard, a former Democrat congresswoman, who's got up on Twitter to say her piece. And well, let's just hear what she has to say.
How do you feel about the Ministry of Truth?
This is the kind of thing that you see in dictatorships, this Ministry of Truth, this Department of Propaganda that the Biden administration has just stood up. And the reason why you see this in dictatorships is because they're afraid of us. They're afraid of the people. They're afraid that we might actually think for ourselves. And so now they've created this body that will do two things. Number one, it'll use taxpayer dollars to work through the mainstream media and flood the airwaves with whatever their propaganda narrative is that they're pushing at any given time, and try to drown out anyone with alternate views. And number two, they will silence dissenting voices through intimidation.
Right,
I think the thing to recognize with this, just real quick, is that this isn't something new. This is something that they have already been doing, that's happening right now. The only difference is they're formalizing it, making it official, which, if there's a silver lining in this, it is they're revealing exactly who they are and why they're doing it, what they're trying to accomplish. And it allows us, the American people, to stand up and say, hey, you know what? We're not going to let you get away with this crap. We will take a stand. We will reject it. And we will throw out of office those who are continuing to push and propagate this undemocratic, anti-free speech mission.
I agree with that. Throw them out. Throw them out. We have here on the Financial Post had an article saying, you pick. This is the Canadian perspective for American audience out there. This is a little bit of Canadian homegrown, our opinion, and what's going on in this. The old CBC or Musk's new Twitter, and this is an opinion piece here from the Financial Post. Among left hysterics over Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter, one of the standouts has been Canada's own national broadcaster, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, CBC, flagship news show, The National, opened Monday night with a report that portrayed Musk's move as a harbinger of ideological bias and wrapped in perspectives. That's kind of interesting. What is the CBC? It just kills me every time. So free speech is terrifying for these institutions. The idea of people being able to come together without some sort of narrative enforcement on them. Twitter being that now. And, well, hopefully more so in the coming weeks and months. We have this from one of the most warped and biased medias in Canada. Here we are, creating the potential for great Canadian media standoff. Who will Canadians pick? The old CBC or Musk's new Twitter? Here, the opening news announcement from Andrew Chang, the Nationals anchor, on the biggest story of the day. Tonight, $44 billion for 240 characters. The world's richest man, Elon Musk, now owns Twitter, joining the club of billionaires in charge of publishing, keep that word in mind, tech and social media. So what's he going to do with it? So the idea here is that these people are publishing something. Now, Section 230 of the Millennial Copyright Act states that gives immunity for these platforms as long as they're not publishers. And that's the concept here. They're not supposed to be publishing. And what Elon did is he purchased the company in order to take the publishing out of it and make it actually a platform. And that's the whole idea. So people have been arguing about Section 230 and asking for reform on it to be a little less vague on the wording so that these platforms don't become publishers. And that's the idea. Elon Musk buying the company, doing that exactly, taking the publishing away. To answer that question, Chang was replaced on screen by Katie Klonick, a law professor at St. John's University in New York and an active critic of online media owners and executives. A Musk-controlled Twitter, she said, would remove all the moderation, which means a massive influx of fake accounts, spam accounts, pornography on the site, hate speech, things like that. Now, this is what Musk says he wants to combat. He wants to get rid of the spam accounts, all the bots, and verify all human beings. And I'm pretty much on board with that. I mean, we can have a longer discussion of what that means, but again, join me in my live streams. One tonight at 6:30 Pacific time. A few minutes later, Chang picked up the theme of Musk as an all-powerful media mogul who will join the existing cabal of evil, cartoonish figures who loom menacingly over the daily online interviews via FANG's Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, and now Twitter, whether you tweet or not. Chang says, if you have likely been influenced by Twitter's ability to amplify and distort information. Interesting that, because, well, it's kind of disturbing that the Biden laptop got squashed in the last election in the United States, just at the most crucial timing. Because it turns out a lot of people would have voted differently based on that information. Now, Elon Musk tweeted this out. Oh no, you can't see the one picture. It's just the over here. Anyway, so this is an illustration of the Overton window, and it's basically showing that somebody who would have been reasonably left of center, a conservative who's on the right. So you have like the left, the right, and then somebody who sits there somewhere in the middle, right? And this wouldn't be like craziness. This isn't like funny mustache man. This is just the conservative side of things, and then this would be the liberal, and then whoa, the liberals running way far to the left, and the guy in the center, or the guy left of center, appears to be going more towards the center, and then as the woke progressive keeps running further and further to the left, it makes the person who was formerly left of center look more to the right. And here's the conservative saying lol, because nobody's changed their positions at all. It's just the left has gone hog wild. They're gone way out to lunch, and that seems to be where things are. But I'll end it on this free speech Jeopardy statement here. Because now we can have free speech on Twitter. Go over to Twitter and answer this question. Free speech Jeopardy answer for your daily double: an adult human female. And don't forget, it has to be in the form of a question. Now, I'll be live tonight at 6:30 Pacific time. We're going to do a weekly roundup and catch up on some of the news that I couldn't get to. So stay tuned for that. Be around, make yourself available, grab yourself a brewski or something to hang out. We're going to have some fun. We'll see you in the next video, and we'll see you tonight. Keep on tracking.